In this lesson, we're going to be learning to work with a variety of different layers and a variety of different objects in Adobe InDesign. Before you get started, you should have downloaded the Lesson 4 files. You can have a look at what the end product is going to look like by opening the End InDesign document. But when you're ready, go ahead and open up the Layers Intro InDesign document. If it asks you to fix any links or issues with the modified links, you can say update the modified links. And in this document, it's simply going to show you how layers work in Adobe InDesign. If you don't see your layers panel over in the far right-hand side, you can always go to Window and choose Layers from here. Otherwise, click on the Layers panel or the little icon and open it up. And just like in the other Adobe software, you can see there's a variety of different stacked items that are all named. If you click on the eyeball of any one of these, you can temporarily turn on and off the visibility of any one of these objects. Additionally, if you click on the little arrow, you can see all of the objects that are nested inside of this layer. Some of them have multiple different objects, and some of them may only have one particular thing. If you click on the empty space that's beside the eyeball, this will lock down that entire layer and all of the objects that are inside of it. If you want to quickly select all of the objects inside of a layer, simply click on the little square and you can see how it highlights it a specific color, and this will highlight and select all of the objects inside of that particular layer. Since I've got my type layers selected, if I want to change the stacking order of any one of my layers, I can click on the empty area and then drag down until the highlighted area is selected between two layers. In this case, if I put it below the background layer, you can see everything is covered up now by the little grocery bag. So that's simply because it's behind the background. If I was to use my selection tool and select the grocery bag and move it out of the way, you can see now it's nice and visible. So working in layers gives you a lot of control over how you can place the order and visibility of different things within your InDesign document. Now that we're done with this, I'm going to close out all of my other InDesign documents. I'm not going to save them simply because we're not going to use these. Instead, let's open up our OS4 Start InDesign document, and if necessary, let's update the modified links. From here, let's go and open up our Layers panel. Notice that it has a panel for the graphics and also for the text. Just like the others, once you have it highlighted, that's the layer that we're working on, and you can open it up and see all the different things that are inside of it. We'll use our zoom tool, and let's zoom in on these pink flowers over on the side. If necessary, you may need to scroll and zoom a couple of times. If we were to select the photograph of these flowers, you'll notice that it has a blue border going around its frame. If we click inside on the content grabber, you'll notice that it also has a little blue border inside of it as well. It's very difficult to see the difference between these two. If you'll notice in our layers panel that the blue is also the highlighted default color for this layer as well. If you ever want to change the border color or the layer color of any particular given layer, you can simply double click on the empty space of that layer. This will open up the layer options. From here, we can change our blue color to be something like a bright orange, and we'll say OK. Now notice the contrasting difference between these two. It's very easy to make out the difference between the border content of this and the image content that's behind it. Now, with the image still selected, inside of our Layers panel, if we wanted to move this image from the text layer into the graphics layer, we can click on the orange icon and drag it up and let go inside of the graphics panel. And that's going to move this image from all of the nested images or nested things inside the text layer into the graphics layer where it belongs. Now, this ability to move objects forward and backwards or up and down a layers panel can also be found inside of the Object, Arrange, drop-down menu. Notice that you can also move things forward and backward to here. However, this only works within a layer and not between multiple layers. So for now, if I told this image to send to back, it'll send it to the very back or the very bottom of the graphics layer, but it won't send it to the bottom or the back of the text layer itself. From here, let's click on the lock icon for the graphics and notice that it locks all of the content inside of that layers. We can close it up, and let's close up the text layer or text graphic too. Since this is so tall, I'm going to bring this up just a bit so I can see everything nice and easy. If you want to create a new layer inside of InDesign, you can simply click on the little plus sign at the bottom of this layer and notice that it automatically creates a new layer at the very top. We want to rename this layer, so I'm going to double click on the name. This will open up the options. We'll call it background, and let's give it a layer color of green. When I say OK, you can see it places it up here at the very top. If you want to change the stacking order of any one of these, and let's say put the background at the very bottom, again, click on it and drag down, and now it's behind everything else. Let's go up to View and fit the spread to our window. We want to move a couple of things from this text layer down to our background layer. First, click on the light purple background that's behind here, then hold down the Shift key and click on the image of the picture on the right-hand side. With both of those selected, you can go to your Layers panel, you can click on the orange icon and drag it and let go on the background layer. If you open up the background, you can see now both the rectangle and that garden cover photo have been moved down. Let's go to page 2, and remember you can go to page 2 by going to the bottom of your frame and then clicking the next page, and that'll scoot over. We want to get both of these backgrounds, and to carefully do it, we're going to go to the very top and click and drag over those two corners. Since both of those were in the selection path, both of those are now selected. You can see them right here. And we can click on the orange and drag it down to the background layer here as well. Before I forget, let's also lock down this background layer so that we don't accidentally work on it. Next, let's go to our Pages panel and locate page 4 and double click on it. We want to create a text box inside of these first two columns. So let's grab our Type tool. Remember, because we're still on the background layer, it's not going to allow us to create a text box. We'll hit Cancel. Instead, make sure the text layer is selected. Now you should be able to click and drag inside of these first two column guides to create your text frame. Let's type the word featured. Hold down Shift and hit Return to create a forced line break. And let's do blossoms. In order to see these line breaks and any kind of special features, you can always go up to Type and down to Show Hidden Characters. A forced line break looks like the little L bracket here at the very bottom. Because it's a forced line break, InDesign treats both of these two paragraphs as the same paragraph. This means without having to select both lines, we can open up our paragraph styles and let's select the right flush titles. You may have to scroll down to find it. There it is there. And notice now it automatically selects it and changes that style for both lines. In order to get my text box to be nice and flush inside this area, I'm going to hold down the Escape key, and this will automatically deselect it and also choose my selection tool. You can double click on the center bottom handle found right here, and this will automatically fit the content or the frame to the size of the content that we have. Let's fix another text box. I'm going to go to View and let's fit the spread to my window so I can see the entire thing. Hold down the Z key to temporarily get your zoom tool, and let's zoom in down here to this Botanical Gardens Worldwide. You'll notice that when you select this text box, you get a little plus sign at the very end indicating that there's some overset text. So to fix it, we're going to hover over this bottom handle, drag down, and it'll turn white once it snaps to that little guide down at the very bottom. Once we release, you can see the little plus sign is gone. That means it's indicating there's no more overset text. I'm going to deselect this item by going up to Edit and Deselect All. With nothing selected, I'm going to use my white arrow direct selection tool and then hover over the object that I just created. When you click once, the direct selection tool gives you the ability to see all of the little anchor points that create that particular object. You may have to zoom in to be able to see them, but they're usually at the edges of whatever object you've created. Now right now, nothing is selected, so they're all white or they're hollow. If you carefully click or hover over this center bottom one, so here's one right here, and click just once, this will select just this center bottom one. You'll notice that the others are still or should still be white and unselected. With this one selected, carefully click on it and drag it upward to about 7.5 inches. So I'm looking at the Y, and there it is right about there. You can see now this will deform the little text box that we created, and it'll also deform and flow the text that's inside of it as well. Notice that this does give us some overset text. We're going to fix this in just a second. Now by default, because all of these have straight edges, all of the anchor points have no little handles that give you the ability to change them to curves. If we wanted to have a curved line, let's find the Convert Anchor Point tool hiding underneath your pen tool. So click and hold on your pen tool and choose Convert Direction Point tool. With this tool selected, you can carefully click on this anchor point and drag up and to the right, and you can see it gives us two little handles that control the curve of it. I'm going to drag it up and to the right and give it a little bit of a curve. Again, you can see it start to curve down here. Now, we don't want to control these handles with this tool. Instead, let's press the A key, swap back to our direct selection tool. Then with this tool, we can click on our point and drag it downward and move it around until we get rid of our overset text, and also so that it reads nice and easily as well. So I don't want to have any awkward breaks. That looks good. Additionally, you can click on the curve of the handles and change this up however you wish. If you accidentally click away from the frame that we're working on, simply click back on the point. That'll reselect everything and bring it back up to where you want it to be. That looks like a nice good curve. So from here, if you haven't saved already, let's go up to File and down to Save. Make sure to name this appropriately. I'm going to rename it 04 Start to 04 Object.